The following is an interview I had with FLOREE Williams White, author of the book The Wonderful World of Yohan. Greetings, listeners, and welcome to Tropical Literature Creatives. I'm your host, Kevin George, and today we have our guest, Miss FLOREE White. Miss White, welcome to Tropical Literature Creative.
Thank you.
Well, FLOREE, is it okay if I call you FLOREE?
Yes.
Okay. Well, FLOREE, I understand that you're from Antigua and Barbuda, and I want you to imagine this. Imagine you meet me at the airport. I'm a tourist, and you're passing me in the airport. I want you to think of one thing that you would recommend that I try, or a place that I would visit if it is I come to Antigua and Barbuda.
Well, seeing that with a land of 365 beaches, pretty much think that would be the safest bet. If you like water, I would recommend a beach on the south side. Those are the prettiest ones.
Okay. Noted. Antigua and Barbuda, land of the 365 beaches. All right, well, tell me a bit about yourself, not the stuff that we could find on Facebook or LinkedIn.
Well, that's hard.
I'm sure you can do it.
I am a author, publisher, and a marketing and communications professional.
Oh.
You can find it LinkedIn, obviously. I call myself the moon dancer. That comes from my mantra in life. It was a quote I saw in a movie once: never let fear stop you from dancing on the moon. And that's what I've pretty much been trying to live by for most of my life, because I'm a bit of a anxious introvert. So there's always something I have to try and conquer, and I just keep that in mind. But that fact that joy should always conquer fear.
Okay. I mean, was that the same thing with your writing? Was that something for you to challenge yourself and to conquer as well?
The writing was, I fell into it by accident.
Really?
I didn't keep journals or anything like that when I was younger. I did read a lot, up to probably secondary school. Then the schoolwork and stuff kind of took over reading for leisure. And when I was in university, I went to study basically communications, advertising, that kind of field. And the particular degree course that I was in, because I was doing the general one, it required a second major. I wanted to do psychology with it, but there was a math requirement I was missing. I don't like math, so that was a sign to me that this is not the road for me. So the advisor told me about a degree called professional writing and communication, which would go good with what I was doing. I left the office feeling very sad because and I read the outline, it sounded really just boring, and I just kind of got that point. I'd gone through the course book over and over again, and I didn't see anything else I wanted to do, so I said, I guess I just have to do this and stick it out. And to my surprise, it focuses more on the different genres of writing, creative writing, writing for science, history, stuff like that. As the professor said, they had to give a very bland description so that the university doesn't think that people are having too much fun over there, but it's creativity. I said, okay, I think I can do creative. And I submitted my stories, etc., and I would get really good feedback, really good marks, and it's just like, oh, I didn't know I was good at this. Kind of surprised. And the final course in your final year is called Making a Book. So a select few students are allowed to take that course, and by the end of it, the professor's publishing company would publish your book. I didn't think I was going to get in, but I said, let me ask. And he's like, of course, I was waiting for you to come. And that was just validation that this is a skill I had that I didn't know I had.
Okay.
Everything kind of just blossomed out from there. So that's kind of how I became a writer accidentally.
Okay, I mean, from your description, I could see all the things, or at least a couple of the things that contributed to you being where you are right now in terms of being an author. Your love for reading, how it is that you went into communications, and some of the skills that you had that kind of contributed to you being able to put together your material. So you mentioned a bit about your education, a bit about your history. In terms of the book, is this your first book? Is this your only book?
No, so as I was saying, out of university, I had published a book. It was the end of my my last year. It was called Pink Teacups and Blue Dresses, and it was a compilation of short stories about my childhood. Many
Okay.
of them I would have written throughout the time in university for different courses and stuff. So of course we went through the whole, they teach you the whole process in terms of editing, laying out on a page, like you had to learn the program, going to the printery, picking out your paper, getting your cover design, learning how to align the spine. So by the time you finish, you completely know the whole process. So that's
Well,
also why it was easy for me to go into publishing, because I have those skills and that knowledge. So those Pink Teacups and Blue Dresses. Then I tried a young adult novella that was called Through the Window, and I took a long break after that, and I did The Wonderful World of Yohan. And I think that's kind of where I realized, somewhere between the break between those two books, as to where I wanted to go with what I wanted to do. And I think so children's book was more my focus. I did The Wonderful World of Yohan. That was in 2018, I think. Right, just at the beginning of 2018, the end of 2017. And then there was Dance on the Moon, which just came out at the end of last year. That's a children's book as well. So The Wonderful World of Yohan is short stories about a little boy with a crazy imagination. And then Dance on the Moon is a picture book, which I've always wanted to do, about a little girl and her big feelings that she tries to learn how to manage.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot, that's a lot. You mentioned one of the things I wanted to revisit at one point in time, you mentioned the skills that you gained in terms of publishing, and I want us to revisit that, but just a bit later on. But I'll just go ahead with a couple of questions before I come back to that. At least where Johan is concerned, the wonderful world of Johan, and what served as the inspiration for this book?
The first story in the book I had written, I saw a call for stories from Caribbean Airlines magazine. And I was like, oh, I'll try this. So I just sat down and was like, what would I write for this? And I just came in my head about a little boy whose imagination makes him, just immerses him more into his own world. And so I just kind of thought up some concepts and wrote it down and did the story, submitted it, never heard from them. So I kind of just packed it in a folder on my computer. And I would feel like it was years later, something just kept tapping my shoulder saying, you should just write some more stories about him. So I just, started to imagine, or I have a vivid imagination that helps. Just think of things, watch children, and, come up with other stories. So I did that, and I was very proud of myself. I thought it was a good crop of story. I'd given it to another author here, Joanne Hillhouse, to take a look at, and she edited and gave me some feedback and so forth. So I was pretty confident with what I had. So I had to shop for publishers. And there was a Caribbean one that I reached out to that I had seen had done quite a few children's books and teen young adult books. I thought that probably be a good fit. And the publisher replied and said, children books shouldn't have bad endings or something like that, because the stories are realistic. It's the little boy, he's the active imagination, he gets into trouble. He's kind of mischievous. So it's not just a, cut and dry, happy ending kind of thing. Sometimes he gets in trouble. Sometimes he gets away with things, And the book at the end, the last story kind of just redeems him. So that kind of threw me off. When I was looking at international publishers, most things I read said they don't accept compilation of short stories unless it's a well-known author. So it kind of felt like I hit some dead ends. And in my mind, I knew this was a good set of stories, and I didn't see any reason why children shouldn't be able to enjoy it. So I just kind of decided that if all the doors are going to close in my face, I'll just make my own.
And this is where your background in publishing came in?
Yes.
Exactly. Fantastic. Continue. Sorry for intruding. Continue.
That's okay. So I just did some research in terms of what I needed to do in terms of getting the ISBN numbers and registering the business and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
I already knew how to lay out the book and stuff like that. I got a graphic designer to do the parts that I couldn't do. And I use because the book before Through the Window was self-published through Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew how to use their self-publishing service,
Ah.
which is a print on demand service. So once you give them the finished product and they approve it, it's up online for sale. You can order your copies. And because I had my own ISBN numbers, it would be listed as Moon Dancer books as opposed to, printed through Amazon or whatever. So
Your,
that's how I got that started.
your own publishing, your own publishing.
Yes.
No, and I'm really excited when it is that you mention that of the persons who I would have interviewed so far. Some persons would have had some bad experiences. Some persons would have had some good experiences where publishing is concerned. I like your approach in that there was a problem that you faced, and here it is, you were able to find a solution and just get things done. And I think that's really impressive.
Thanks. Because I did a lot of research on the publishing process. I knew sending it away internationally takes something like 6 weeks or something for somebody to respond to you if they ever respond at all. So you could be waiting a good part of a year just for somebody to think that you have some value to them. Of
Mm-hmm,
course, we all want that validation of seeing somebody in some office somewhere read my story and thinks it's great and they want to take it to the next level. But I just had to have the confidence that this is good enough and children need to read it. So it doesn't matter who prints and publishes it, it just needs to be in the hands of the kids. So that was my main focus. I would love to have a better distribution in the Caribbean.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I haven't been able to or had time to kind of research the channels in terms of how that works. I don't think there's any established organization or anything like that that you could go to. So it might be a case of having to contact individual bookstores and stuff. That's something I'll explore later down the line.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
for now, it's just local distribution and online Amazon.
Okay, okay. I mean, you mentioned you believe that his story was good and you thought that it had to get into the hands of persons, children in particular. Do you have any children of your own?
Yes, I have a son who's 3.
Okay, okay. I mean, when he's probably 5 or maybe 7 years old, I mean, how would you feel if it is that he goes to the library, he goes to school, and he sees your book on the shelf and he's like, hey, my mommy wrote that book. I mean, is that something that you look forward to? Is that a legacy that you want to leave with your son, with your children?
Interestingly enough, he'll love the book because it's named after, well, should I say, his name is Johan, but he came after the book.
Oh.
Yeah, my husband decided he was going to name the child. And so every name he brought, I was like, no, I don't like it. I have my own names. You can just use these.
Mhm.
And then one night he came in the bedroom with a book in his hand. He's like, Johan. I said, no, it's kind of weird because, as writers, these people are people that we write about are characters in our mind. They have their own existence. So it's weird for me to be like, this person exists in my mind. It's not real.
Mhm,
He said, I love this character. He reminds me of myself as a boy. I was just like this. So this is what it is. So that's how that that happened. So he'll love the book for more than one reason. But just more than like my own child, just being able to have something that's because I try to keep my stories locally based.
mhm, mhm.
Um, in terms of being Caribbean stories, the places in the book mightn't be real places in Antigua, but everything is identifiable in terms of culture and, scenery and stuff like that. And that's important to me for that representation
Yes, yes,
of
of
being able
course.
to read a book and it's in a place that it uses phrases and ideologies that you understand.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
think that's important because it's very easy to pick up a book from, any other part of the world, especially, dominated on the market by probably North American books. And you can't always identify with what's going on there. Because I remember being in secondary school and one of the books that stood out to me was Becca Lamb. It was based in Belize. And that's as
Mhm.
close as to the Caribbean as we're going to get. So I think that's important to tell our stories and have that representation for children to have a diverse understanding of the world from their own backyard and to wherever else, and to also give that reassurance that you can do this too. Your stories are good and bad, and you don't have to come from a big country to have something worth reading.
FLOREE, cut, copy, and paste. I mean, I can totally identify and understand where it is that you're coming from. I mean, that's one of the reasons why this program was started to begin with, because a lot of the things that exist in the Caribbean, I don't think persons are privy to it. And when they see material like yours, they get a window, they get a glimpse into what it is that the Caribbean has to offer. That, like you said, it doesn't just have to come from outside of the Caribbean, that there are persons who, when it is that they open literature like yours, they can identify with the content and feel a sense of, I think the word is ownership when it is that we go through it. And yeah, I really totally agree with what it is that you just said there.
Yeah, because like in the Wonderful World of Yohan, there's a scene where he's talking to his great uncle who came by, and he has a donkey and he's bringing bananas. Where else in the world, are you going to see that? It's something you can identify with. For Dance in the Moon, when I was working with the illustrator, I took a lot of time to send her photos that were local to say, these are the references.
Yeah.
And this is how I want it to look. This is how the uniform should look. This is how the people should look. This is how the backgrounds, how our buildings look, because she's not from the region. So that was very important. So when you open it, you see a uniform like what you wear. You see, teachers wearing clothing like you see houses and bedrooms that look like yours.
Yeah, and I really like that. And I personally appreciate the effort that you put into material like this.
Thank you.
And I have a question, or obviously another question. I mean, with a book like this, there are a lot of themes that I saw when it is I went into the book. Obviously, imagination is one of the main themes of the book. But for anyone else, is there any story, is there any other takeaway that you would want persons to have when they read this book?
Just that with children, that part of them, that magic, their imagination, where they're able to sit and play with their own toys and make up stories, and that's part of us as humans that disappears the older we get and the more the world hardens us. So it's something that we should celebrate, embrace, and encourage. And I think that reading a lot fosters imagination as well. Because anytime I've done any sort of writing exercises or workshops with children or young people, I can always tell the ones that read a lot. Because when you ask them to do a story or any exercise like that, you can tell right away because their stories are richer. They have more depth and imagination and are more interesting than the kids who don't really read a lot.
Ah, okay.
You can tell, like I would ask, do you read a lot? And they would say, yeah. And I could tell the difference between the stories instantly. You'd have kids that would write what they're taught, because lots of Caribbean schools we teach, you're supposed to write about the day at the beach or that kind of stories. But those kids that read a lot, they take it beyond just, we went to the beach and we went in the water and we went home. They come up with a whole adventure or some cliffhanger or something that happens, which shows you that this child reads, so they understand how to form a story. And their imagination is going. So I feel like those things are tied in, and those are things that we have to foster with our young people.
Totally agreed. I mean, in terms of putting this book together, as you look back and as in terms of the effort and the work that would have gone into it, is there anyone or any person or any group of persons that you could think of that it would have been difficult to write this book without?
My editors definitely my sounding board. Once I finish it and I email it to her, those are the most nerve-wracking few days, because her opinion is very important to me. So she likes it, then I feel good. We're good to go. She'll tell you, what you need to change, or her thoughts and flow, and or things to tidy up, add, whatever. So I can't do without the editor, definitely. And just I always have some sample readers, friends or family members that I give it to in its early stages to say, this is what I have. read it and tell me what you think. That's important as well, because that's kind of representative of the audience. So I don't think I could do it without family and friends and good editor.
Okay, understood. In terms of the person who might read the book and who might see, okay, I know Miss FLOREE White, that she wrote a book out a while ago, and I mean, I really liked it, and I want to write a book just like her. What advice would you give to the person like that?
My advice would be to just write. Don't get in your head in terms of who you're writing it for, if they're gonna like it, if you should use this word, if your mommy's gonna be upset because you said this, or just write without expectations, without thinking about the reader. Once you get it all out, once you're finished, that's when you can go and tweak and edit and whatever. But just write. There's no right or wrong way to start. I think a lot of people get scared about, the formalities, how to do this and how to do that. And it's like you just have to get the story out first in its purest and most genuine form by just writing how you feel it. Writing until you feel like it's done and you have nothing else to say.
Just getting it out of the system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Having asked all those questions, the question I was going to ask was about publishing, but I guess you pretty much got to it and you answered it already, because I think that's always an interesting topic to broach, because I've understood, because of the persons I've interviewed, like I said, persons have good experiences with publishing, persons have bad experiences with publishing. But I really like your approach and how it is that you overcame that problem. If it is that a person wants to get a copy of your book, what are the channels that they could use to get a copy?
If you're in Antigua, it's available at the Best of Books and 10 Pages Bookstore. It's also available on Amazon.com for persons who are outside of Antigua.
Okay. Is it available in Kindle format?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So, I mean, that's another channel that persons might want to explore as well. All right.
Definitely.
I mean, that brings us to the end of our interview. Thank you for your time, Miss White, our author from Antigua and Barbuda, the land of 365 beaches, who is our mass communicating introvert and writer of Johan and His Wonderful World. Anything you want to share with us before the interview ends?
I just want to say thank you for this opportunity to discuss my work, and I wish you the best with your program.
Okay, well, thank you.
And of course, thank everybody who's ever bought a book or supported me, said a kind word, or given a review, because that's what propels me to the next project. Knowing that there are people that really like what I wrote, knowing that there's kids who took the book to school for their book review, kids who decide to love this, or people meet me in the supermarket and they introduce their children to me, and it just really means so much. It pushes me to keep going.
Okay. Well, I really hope that this interview reaches them so that they know your appreciation and that they can continue to give you the encouragement that propels you forward.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Again, thanks for your time, Miss White, and I do have a pleasant evening.
You as well.
You've been listening to TLC, Tropical Literature Creators. If you've heard something of interest or something you like, reach out to us. Reach out to our authors. Follow us on social media. We look forward to hearing from you.